Thanks for staying with us. Time now for Africa News with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Algerian forces keep up the hunt for the militant group responsible for the brutal beheading of a French hiker. The military is also searching for the remains of Hervé Gourdel. Also, Nigerian police and parents of schoolgirls abducted by Boko Haram say that one of the 200 pupils held captive by the insurgents since April has been freed this week. And bananas are big business in Uganda, and not just because of their nutritional value. Diversification's seen the popular fruit put to more and more uses, including creating an eco-friendly form of fuel for cash-strapped communities. First up, after the execution of a French hiker by extremists on Wednesday, Algerian forces have spent the day scouring the Kabylie mountains in search of the militant group responsible. Hervé Gourdel was beheaded by jihadist fighters calling themselves the Caliphate soldiers, and communities throughout the continent have expressed their horror at the bloodshed.
A spontaneous gathering in front of Tizi Ouzou's University. Residents here are horrified by the killing of the French hostage Hervé Gourdel.
Here in Kabylie, we are not killers, we're not murderers. We love freedom.
I'm shocked.
It's a despicable act. This is not in our culture.
Across Africa, many are shocked. In Mali, where jihadists still operate in the north of the country, the Islamic Council strongly condemned the beheading of Hervé Gourdel.
Around the world, people must get together and fight fundamentalism. Islam is about peace and forgiving. This is what we must be teaching. We're so sad. It's a horrible, barbaric act. It's unacceptable.
Just south of Mali, in Ivory Coast, there were similar reactions.
They are the devil. They aren't Muslims. They just sully our name. This is very serious. The countries that are fighting against them, they must keep going. We pray to God those criminals will be defeated.
I'm shocked. It's terrible. We're mothers. We give birth. And then you see people killing others. It's so wrong.
With the murder of Hervé Gourdel, the groups linked to the Islamic State organization have shown they can also operate in Africa, far from their strongholds in Syria and Iraq.
The leaders of countries worst hit by West Africa's Ebola epidemic, in which nearly 3,000 people have died, have appealed for more international help. Liberia's warned that the problem goes far beyond a health crisis, and Sierra Leone's leader says that it's worse than terrorism. President Ernest Koroma on Thursday took the drastic step of widening a quarantine to include districts with populations of around 1 million. The US has pledged more than 3,000 troops to help battle the outbreak. President Barack Obama says more needs to be done, and quickly.
Do not stand by thinking that somehow because of what we've done that it's taken care of. It's not. And if we don't take care of this now, we are going to see fallout effects and secondary effects from this that will have ramifications for a long time, above and beyond the lives that will have been lost. I urge all of you, particularly those who have direct access to your heads of state, to make sure that they are making this a top priority in the next several weeks and months.
Nigerian police say that one of the girls taken by Boko Haram militants earlier this year has been freed this week. Over 200 students were abducted from the village of CHIBOK in April. Authorities say the released woman was discovered on Wednesday after having been dropped off in Adamawa State by suspected insurgents. Police have not said much about why the 20-year-old may have been let go. While the government came in for international criticism over how much time it took to react to the girl's abduction. A counterinsurgency operation struggled to gain the upper hand over Boko Haram, but has triggered brutal reprisal attacks that often target civilians. Witnesses in the town of SHAFFA say that at least 18 people were killed by militants on motorbikes late on Wednesday. The army is keen, though, to highlight its victories, and this week declared it had killed both Boko Haram's leader and the commander who then took his place.
A video from one of the world's most wanted men, or an imposter. For the first time, the Nigerian military has said it killed Boko Haram chief Abubakar Shekau in 2009. Now, they believe they have also killed a man impersonating the group's leader during fighting in the northeast of the country.
One Mohammed Bashir, who has been acting or posing on videos as the deceased Abubakar Shekau, that eccentric character that is known as the leader of the group, died in that operation.
Rumours of Shekau's death date back as far as 2003, with some speculating his name may have been used by at least 2 others since. The army says in all over 260 Boko Haram militants surrendered in the northeast of the country. Islamist fighters have suffered heavy losses in recent weeks, with the Nigerian military taking the fight to its base in Maiduguri. Although the latest reports cannot be independently verified, they could mark a turning point in the battle against a group responsible for a series of high-profile attacks. Among them, the kidnapping of more than 200 schoolgirls in April. Speaking in New York, Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan urged the UN Security Council to do more to combat the militants.
From targeted attacks by Al-Qaeda a few years ago, we now have mobile bands of thousands of terrorists sweeping across vast areas, destroying lives, and even attempting to hold territory. This is unacceptable.
Human Rights Watch believes over 2,000 civilians have been killed in the Boko Haram-controlled Borno state this year alone. Many more have fled.
In Rwanda, 2 policemen have been arrested in connection to the murder of an anti-corruption campaigner. The body of Gustave Makonene was found last July in Rubavu, near the border with Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, he was a coordinator for Transparency International and had been looking into mineral smuggling from DRC into Rwanda. The autopsy report suggested Makonene had been strangled. Police suspect the detained officers were implicated in the campaigner's investigation. The UN reckons that almost 4 million people in South Sudan are struggling to find enough to eat, and there fears that parts of the country face the risk of famine. The humanitarian crisis has been caused by 10 months of warring between the fighters loyal to the president and those backing his former deputy. NGOs have warned the situation's critical and that the difficulties some communities face trying to feed themselves may be flying under the aid radar. And finally, for its population, Uganda consumes the most bananas in the world, and demand for the fruit just keeps growing, and not just because of its value at mealtimes. Take a look.
Bananas can be made into beer, ornaments, textiles, paper, and much more. Uganda, a banana-producing country, is putting this knowledge to good use. Here they have found ways of transforming this fruit into innovative products. One of the most valuable of these are charcoal briquettes.
The residents here use charcoal to cook. So when they get alternative that can give them more energy for quite a long time, so they prefer to go to charcoal briquettes. So charcoal briquettes is really breaking the market.
The briquettes are made out of dried banana skins. The first step involves carbonization to decompose the material. The powder that results is then mixed with a binder and made into compact briquettes that are then put to dry. In some cases, machines are used to improve the combustion and speed up the process.
With this machine, you put in your material, which is carbonized and everything, it will be throwing the briquettes and just only keep picking. So depending on your speed and how you are picking, you can make 4 tons a day.
Other parts of the banana plant are also used. The fibers of the stems are dried and processed, then cut into pieces. They are mixed with ash, then boiled to produce a paste that is used to make paper. The paper is also made into small balls to make colorful necklaces. With bananas, nothing is wasted.
Well, that wraps up Africa News for me, but do stay with us. More news and headlines from around the world coming up. Take care.